All right, so to convert degrees into radians, you take your degree measure, you multiply it by pi over 180 because that is the reduced equivalency of 2 pi radians versus 360 degrees. If you're going the other way, you have radians, you want degrees, you just flip it over. Think of chemistry, think physical science. Most of y'all have had one of or both of those classes. When you're converting units, what do? You try to get rid of, in the first example there where we start with degrees, we want to get rid of degrees, so your degree measure needs to be on the bottom so that it cancels. Vice versa, if we start with radians, we want to get rid of the radians, the radian measure, the pi, needs to be on the bottom. What we want, the degrees, needs to be in the numerator. Now, to do this in the calculator, you got to be a little careful, particularly when you're going degrees to radians, because you can't just type that pi in there. Because once you type that pi in there, it will not turn it into the fraction that you need it to be. So if we're going to convert 115 degrees into radians, we've got degrees, so we're going to multiply by pi over 180. Now, here's what you're actually going to do in the calculator. You are going to reduce 115 over 180 in the calculator. You do not type the pi into the calculator. Okay, all you do is the 115 over 180, reduce it, math, enter, enter. And when you write down your answer, you put the pi in the numerator. So 23 pi over 36 is the radian angle that corresponds to the exact same angle as 115 degrees. Now, we're not going to get into a whole lot of the details, but it is possible to have angles that are greater than 360 degrees. Right now, you just need to know that that is possible. It doesn't change anything about converting. We are still going to reduce 450 over 180. We are not going to put the pi into the calculator. We're just going to reduce 450 over 180, math, enter, enter. We get 5 over 2, so that is 5 pi over 2. Notice we don't have a symbol for radians. It's just understood that if you're talking about an angle and there is not a degree symbol, it's understood that that is radians. So it's very important that if it's degrees, you put your degree symbol. If it's not degrees, you don't put the degree symbol. That's all it comes down to. Any questions about going degrees to radians? Anything in the calculator? Simple enough, right? Okay, let's go radians to degrees. Now, I don't want you to write it in a straight line like this. Write it like the fraction, like I've shown you up there. Okay, 11 pi over 6. We're going from radians to degrees. So we want degrees on top, our radian unit on the bottom, so we're going to multiply by 180 over pi. If you've got pi in the numerator and in the denominator, that cancels out. So then we just multiply straight across the top and multiply straight across the bottom. So 11 times 180 divided by 6 gives us 330 degrees. So 11 pi over 6 radians, 330 degrees. Same angle, just different ways to measure it. Okay, 13 pi over 11, last example here. We want degrees, so degrees goes on top. We're trying to get rid of the radian, so the pi goes on the bottom. We got a pi in the numerator and the denominator, so it cancels. In our calculator, 13 times 180 divided by 11. Now, the majority of the time, your answers are going to be nice, pretty whole numbers, but sometimes they aren't. There is nothing that says that degrees that you can only measure in whole degrees. Sometimes there's just a part of a degree. So keep that in mind. You may possibly get a decimal value. More likely you're going to get a whole number, but it's still possible to get a decimal value.